town has a ghost story that's been passed down through the generations. But what if those legends were true? My name is Miranda Young, and I'm the Ghost Biker. Hey everyone, happy Thursday, happy December 1st. Wow, can you believe we're here? Seems like it was just the start of November, the end of the Ghost Biker season. Here we are trucking along right into the end of the year. So thank you all so much who have joined us along the way and who are joining us tonight. Say hello to a few people over here in the chat room. Hello, Miss Addie Cook. Hey, Janet. Hello, Carla. Howdy, Dr. Sumner. Thank you all again. Hey, Nando. Great to see you, our friends from across the pond over there. Thank you so much. Hey, Tommy G. And good evening, Nancy Weems. Thank you all so much for tuning in tonight and everyone else that's watching the show. We always love to have you guys on here. We have a great guest tonight that I'm going to get to here in just a few minutes. But I wanted to go ahead and talk just a little bit about a few things that we've got going on here at the historic Scott County Jail, as well as a few things wrapping up here at the end of the year. So, like I said, bear with me for a few minutes and then we'll end up getting to the interview. But earlier this week, I was a guest on the Late Late Show with Dino, or the Late Late Horror Show with Dino. Great time, great interview. If you like horror shows, if you like late night, old time, classic horror radio, true crime, definitely go check out the Late Late Horror Show and check out my interview with Dino that we had earlier this week. I think it was on Monday night, but you can find the link to that on the Ghost Biker Explorations website. Also, we just announced that we've opened up the 2023 schedule at the historic Scott County Jail. And there's Dino now. Thank you so much for tuning in. And again, thank you for having me on your show. So we did just open the 2023 calendar at the historic Scott County Jail, and we've got those dates open through the end of August. We will be opening up September through December here, probably at the early start of the year, probably around February or March. Dr. Sumner and I are just kind of getting our event schedules together because we do a lot of events at the end of the year. So we're trying to get all of those kind of shored up and ironed out before we open the remainder of the year. But we've had quite a few bookings this week. So thank you all who have booked. But you can book your investigation of the historic Scott County Jail at www.historicscottcojail.com. And I'm sure if Dr. Sumner's here, she may put that link in the comments there and we'll pull it up on the screen. But you can book those starting now for 2023. We've also got Christmas ghost walks, our haunted history walks of the historic Scott County Jail. We've got those up on the calendar. Those take place every Saturday and Sunday through the month of December. And on Friday nights, we have flashlight tours. We've got one booked this Saturday night. And what we do is we take you throughout the town of Huntsville through all the Christmas lights, sharing some of the different stories of the history of how the town was established, as well as some of the hauntings. And then that ends with an hour-long tour of the historic Scott County Jail by flashlight, where we show you some of the evidence that was captured by not only paranormal investigators from around the country, but also myself and Dr. Sumner, things that we've experienced there. So book your tickets. It's $25 and it's 2 hours. You get a flashlight, you get hot chocolate, and you get a good tour of the jail and of the town of Huntsville. So check that out under the event section of the historic Scott Co Jail Also, the escape room is popping there with the cold weather coming in. Looking for something to do. The sun's setting early. If you want to try to escape from an actual jail cell, and a haunted jail cell at that, you can do that at the historic Scott County Jail as well, under the escape room. So Dr. Sumner's put together an amazing escape room that we're really proud of, and that people come to and they seem to really enjoy. So we're also going to be announcing some haunted motorcycle rides that we're going to be having coming up next year. Also some different events, some book signings, some special tours, some special events at the jail. We will have that stuff announced. It's probably going to be kind of toward the end of December that we're going to put our calendar out, but we will have that stuff. I know that Chris and I are working really hard to try to get all of that together. So, so again, super, super excited about those things that are coming up. Kind of wrapping up the end of the year here with Ghost Biker Explorations. We just had season 5 come out. We've got some behind the scenes stuff we'll be releasing, as well as a few different things before the end of the year. Some camera footage and stuff that we'll be putting out, but working on events for Ghost Biker Explorations next year as well. So, so anyways, I want to go ahead and get to tonight's guest. I'm very, very honored that he took the time to sit down. This is a pre-recorded interview. I will still be live here manning and moderating the chat room for any questions you guys have. But David Childers, he took the opportunity to sit down with me and to share, his experiences. I know a lot of you folks in the chat room know him, and that, have seen him on television. If you've not, you're going to want to get to know him, because he is a very interesting and extremely, extremely kind individual. So he, like I said, he's very busy. So he did sit down and took the time a little bit earlier to pre-record with me. So if you have any questions, please feel free over here in the chat room. Type those in all caps. And like I said, I'll be over here answering and monitoring the chat room as we go throughout the interview. I'll also be popping back on live after the interview is over to talk about a couple things that actually happened during the interview, because this was pre-recorded at the historic Scott County Jail. So we'll be talking about that as the interview ends. But yeah, I hope you enjoy. I'm going to do a brief introduction of him. Otherwise, he'll be introducing himself in the video, but he's worked with some amazing individuals. He's been seen on Travel Channel, Discovery Channel, Lifetime, Oxygen, the network in Canada. I mean, he's been seen all over. Like I said, folks know him. He's been on Ghost Adventures. He travels and does a lot of different events to help with fundraise and restorations for locations, which as a location owner, that's something that's extremely important. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and let him kind of introduce himself. And again, like I said, just any comments you got, feel free to put those in the chat room over here, because even though the interview is not live, we're still live on here. So I will talk to you here very soon. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk to us today, David. Let's go ahead and just kind of ask the basic question of how you got started in the paranormal.
I was I've always been interested in the paranormal. I was 13 years old. And I just got through watching Crocodile Dundee. So, I was like, yeah, I want to be Crocodile Dundee. Imagination going. So I go outside, I put my snake skin boots on, even made a Bowie knife out of wood and stuff like that. So I'm out there. Now, backtracking a little bit, my family's property was Civil War property in Vicksburg, Mississippi. So basically, some of the battle happened there. So I was outside and it was dusk, and I just happened to look over at the wood line and I saw a full body apparition of a Civil War soldier, beard, Confederate uniform, and all that. So hauling ass back inside, I'm like, Dad, there's somebody out there in the yard. And he was like, no, ain't nobody out there. And he just said it was my imagination. And it just went from there. I just started, getting into the scary stories and stuff like that, like checking books out at the library. And it just went from there. I mean, always been interested in the creepy stuff.
Nice. So did you just do paranormal, or did you also do Bigfoot and cryptid stuff as well?
I have in the past. I've done that. I've dabbled in that. Stay away from the UFO because I ain't gonna lie to you, Miranda. That scares the hell out of me. It really does. So, basically just in the Bigfoot thing. I've done it before, but I'm mostly into the ghosties. I'm mostly into looking for spirit.
Nice. So you're from down there in the Mississippi area, but David, you're all over. I mean, you can't turn on Facebook or turn on any type of social media and not see that David Childers is in this part of the country or that part of the country. Let's talk about some of your ventures that you've done and some of the cool places you've investigated.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, I mean, we just did one not too long ago. It was on Halloween night, actually, with Scott Walter. He's actually host of American Unearthed on Travel Channel, which is it's definitely an interesting show. Also, with Haley Ramsey, she's also an author and stuff as well. They tour around, like do a United States tour and overseas tour and stuff like that. But America's Stonehenge, we investigated. It was pretty interesting. And we had Don DiCristofano. Don's going to kill me for butchering his name. I always get him to, say his last name for me. But yeah, he was there. He joined in on us, and we got some pretty cool stuff. I'm not really big into the dowsing rod thing, but he pulled out the dowsing rods, and they were pretty accurate. Basically answering the questions that some of our equipment was. K2's meters, and we had the necrophonics going, and Echovox going, and it was actually matching up to whatever it was saying. It was pretty cool,
It's always great when all that stuff combines, when you can get several tools to work together.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's why you do that. You bring all these tools together, and it's validation, basically, and not saying it is 100% paranormal, unexplainable, but it's probably, it's close there, about 10%.
Yeah, and that sounds like a really cool location. That's not really been investigated too much, has it?
No, not really. I think it's been investigated like 3 or 4 times, and it's pretty cool. And the thing is about America's Stonehenge in New Hampshire. It's in Salem, New Hampshire, and nobody knows who built it or what. Nothing really. And the place is just so massive, and they have certain stones all over the property where they have figured out what north, south, east, and west is. It's like starting points where they can go on their journeys wherever they, I guess, hunting and fishing and water and all that stuff. They figured out with the harvest moon and this and that. I mean, all these rocks, the way they're lined up with the stars in the sky, it's pretty interesting.
Wow. And so so have you got some activity that you've been able to go back and document with history, or has it just been kind of random?
Yeah, it was basically just random, especially that night. I mean, it was something that was really cool. Whenever Don was using the dowsing rods, Haley and Scott, they look up and their eyes got big, and I was like, "What?" And they were like, "Yeah, we just saw a light anomaly, a couple of them. It was burst of energy, a burst of light that happened. It was like probably about 8 foot up in the air, about maybe 50 yards away." And it was just out of the blue. I wish I would have saw it, but they both saw it at the same time, and I could tell they turned white. They were like, "Oh wow!" They actually saw a burst of energy, which was real cool.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah,
and they're mostly they love the paranormal. They love investigating, but they're mostly into the artifacts and stuff like that, and history. And I'll definitely check it out. America Unearthed on Travel Channel. You'll see some of the stuff that they're into.
So you're in New Hampshire now, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So, one thing I've always found absolutely fascinating about the paranormal is just how regional some of the different haunts and some of the different stories are. You talk about being from Mississippi, where you've got the strong Civil War influence, and also Native American, also up in New Hampshire, where you've got the old history of New England. What's some of your favorite regions to investigate in, since you've traveled all over?
Well, I mean, I've picked up a lot of evidence in the past, down south, investigating for years down there, and of course all over. But up here, man, it's just totally different in the New England states. Everywhere I've gone up here, I've picked up some sort of evidence. It's so crazy how it is. And personal experience wise, I've seen stuff up here I've never seen before when investigating these places down south. So it's definitely interesting. I mean, I love New Hampshire area, New York, Massachusetts, all the Rhode Island, Vermont. Actually just got through investigating Colonial Inn. That was in Massachusetts. Sam Balchustis, he put on an event there, or con. We got some pretty cool stuff there. And that was able to investigate with, oh gosh, I suck at people's names up here. I'm used to saying last names down south. Was it Patty Najee?
Oh,
Patty.
Yeah.
I suck at it. But able to investigate with her and do a seance with her. That was real cool. She was awesome, energetic person. But yeah, there's just so many places up here that have a lot of history to it, just like down south, but they're a lot older, like 1700s.
Yeah.
And love it up here. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's really cool when you can go to that, because here in East Tennessee in the Appalachian Mountains, we've got completely different stuff than you guys had there in Mississippi, And so I'm always fascinated to talk to people who are in specifically different regions and the type of hauntings that they experience at the different locations that they're at.
Yeah, like Penhurst Asylum. Penhurst Asylum was amazing. We went out there with Christina, our good friend Christina Westervelt. She invited us out there and did an investigation with them. And actually, me and Chris Sanders were in one of the tunnels. It was the Mayflower Flower Building. We were in the tunnel down there, and we were walking down there, and I got TikTok live going, 18,000 people watching, and they're witnessing this. Probably about 30, 40 feet away, it's the end of the tunnel. We could see the end of the tunnel, but we see a shadow person going back and forth. And they're sitting here watching this and like, oh my God, there's a shadow, pacing back and forth. It's like, yeah. And then Chris says, hello. And we heard a little bit of echo, but I think it was we heard something, but I think it was his echo. But the second time he says hello, the echo dies down. 4 seconds later, you hear a disembodied voice of a guy come back, hello, and it's loud. Oh, it is so loud. I'll send that video over to you. I mean,
yes, please.
It's definitely not an echo. Definitely not an echo. And I mean, like I said, it was at the end down there. It was dead end. We could see almost see the end of the wall, but.
That's insane. I didn't know this. Hello? Hello? Are you serious?
Pretty interesting. I love it whenever you get DVPs. DVPs are the best because, I mean, it's recorded and plus you hear it audible. So.
Absolutely. Those are my favorites. A lot of the time with my background in photography, I debunk a lot of my photographic and video type evidence, but it's really hard when you've accounted for that echo and accounted for that noise contamination when you get these EVPs and DVPs coming back.
Yep, absolutely. I think that was like one of the biggest ones here recently was Penhurst Asylum. We're going back there next year. Me and Karen Tatterow, we're throwing an event down there, Penhurst Asylum and Fort Mifflin, which you did the flyer for, so you know about.
That's right. Yeah, I got to experience Fort Mifflin. I didn't get to investigate it, but I was going up to investigate the Lizzie Borden house and also the Farnsworth Inn there in Gettysburg, and landed there in Pennsylvania, right outside of Fort Mifflin. Went and did the day trip, and when I went into one of the underground cells, we actually caught a couple disembodied voices while just sitting there, just kind of filming. And we were the only people on the property because it was right there in the middle of the day. It was cold, and thought we also saw a shadow figure. And this was just during just the daytime there at Fort Mifflin. Such a cool place.
And that's cool that you caught it during the daytime. See, a lot of people's like, a lot of investigators, they go out during the nighttime, this and that for the creep factor. But I mean, you think about it, you probably gonna catch more your evidence during the daytime. That's whenever everything was active. It's just like hospitals and stuff. Everybody was active during the day. They were asleep at night.
Exactly.
So
exactly. You get a different kind of activity. And I mean, I totally understand the creep factor. I understand it's quieter. But working here at the jail, being here, I mean, Christy and I are here up to 16 hours a day a lot of the time. And sometimes we do it in shifts, sometimes we're together. But during the day, we get some of the craziest stuff. We'll think there's someone up on one of the floors above us doing something, and there's nobody else in the building. You know, it's even just that residual stuff that kind of goes on during the day. Let's talk a little bit about hospitals. You know, so I know a lot of people have seen you on TV, and what's some of your TV exposure, I guess, that people can go back and that they can watch?
Probably, I mean, my favorite one is Haunted Hospitals, because that tells about my story, about my attachment, which I talk about, conventions and stuff whenever I'm speaking. I go over that, about attachments and, how bad they can get, and actually, wear a person down to a certain level. They start going into depression. But Haunted Hospitals, it's season 2, episode 13, called Obsession. It's only 2 shows on that episode, but mine's at the last. But yeah, that's something definitely to look out. Travel Channel, Discovery. If you got Discovery Plus, then you can check it out on there. Let's see, Paranormal 911. That's another attachment that I had whenever I was a volunteer firefighter in Vicksburg, Mississippi. That's season 1, episode 6, called The Chapel. Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, there's other ones out there. Strange Evidence. Ghost Adventures, Spirits Under Siege. That was with Abandoned Hospital, Cume State Hospital. That's where that happened to me, where I had that attachment. My story on haunted hospitals. Okay. So that was definitely interesting, because while me and Zach were sitting here talking, they got this on video. While we were talking, he was asking me about the non-human spirit, entity, named Michael. As soon as he said that, bam, door slammed on the second floor. I mean, both of us reacted to it. We went running up there, and all the doors were wide open. So it's pretty interesting. It definitely is.
Was that location a known haunted location that was investigated, or how did that come about?
Well, I knew about Cume Hospital because it was part of, actually, that hospital was there pre-Civil War. The Sisters of Mercy ended up coming down from Baltimore. They took them a year to travel down, the nuns. Took them a year to travel down. They came down to help with the yellow fever and smallpox outbreak right before the Civil War, like in 1862. Then the Civil War hit, and they had to evacuate the town for a little bit, and then they ended up coming back. But anyway, that hospital was still standing, and it ended up getting transferred over to a foundation, and they just let it sit there. I guess it was a tax write-off or something. I have no idea. But I contacted them. I was like, hey, look, can I be a caretaker? And they said, yeah, sure. So I went up there and I put, caution tape all the way around it, no trespassing signs. I'll go out there and, kick kids off the property, this and that. And started investigating it. I mean, I might as well. I'm not getting paid. So I might as well investigate it. And that's whenever I started getting obsessed with that location. And yeah, it was extremely haunted. It was extremely haunted. And the place isn't there anymore. After the murder happened there. They ended up just demolishing it. Thank God they finally demolished it like a year later. You can, for that story, which is horrible story, you can just Google David Childers Ghost Hunter or King Hospital, Vicksburg, and it'll pull up that story right there. Really don't want to get into that, but yeah, that right there was the end of the hospital. I mean, it wasn't the hospital's fault. It was just all the trauma and shit that's done happened there. And they were talking about building an apartment complex on there, and I was like, you might as well just put a basketball court and leave it alone, because there's no telling what energy is still left on that property. I mean, back, think about Civil War, they just, cut limbs off and just threw them in the woods, behind the building back in the day.
Yeah, and that seemed to be a pretty common thing from the places from Kentucky all the way down to Florida that I've investigated that had Civil War or even Revolutionary War ties. It was not uncommon whenever they cut those limbs off, they just threw them out. threw them out on the grounds.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it was no burial or anything. Just threw it in a hole.
Wow. So speaking of attachments, so obviously that's something that's very real. I mean, and you yourself have experienced it. Is there anything special that you do when you go to some of these different locations to essentially mitigate or prevent that from happening?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for one thing, you got to believe in whatever faith you follow. You have to believe in it, because if you don't believe in it, it's not going to work. You know, whoever you pray to, your higher power, whoever, you know. Me, I ground myself, meditate a little bit beforehand, you know, become one with the earth. And of course, you know, prayers, you know, praying to God and Jesus, you know, to cover me with their blood and protect me and blah, blah, blah. You know, that's basically how I do it. You know, it depends on the location too. Cause I mean, if I go to say Black Swan Inn, I'm not worried about protecting myself. I mean, cause it's a good spirit there. It really is. Yeah. If I go to a place like maybe Penhurst, yeah, I probably will, you know, or if I'm going to be a part of a seance, or, you know, play with Ouija boards or something like that, which really, it's just, to me, it's just another tool. It depends on how you use it. I mean, it's basically doing the same thing with a voice recorder. You're still holding it. You're putting your energy out. You're asking questions, and you're trying to get a response back. Instead of it's spelling it out, it's coming through the recorder to speak to you. So
dowsing rods, pendulums.
The same thing. Yeah. You're using your energy. You're doing the same thing. So, but it depends. It depends. I have one board that I've used before, and I actually did, you know, ground myself and all that good stuff, because this right here is just a weird board. It was only 13 of them made, and it has a dark history to it, which is only 12 of them left now because one of them was burned up in a house fire. But yeah, it was linked back to actually the woman that inspired the Love Boat back in the 1970s. And she made these boards, you know, and she made these boards, and they were sold just by mail order on the Love Boat. Her husband was a movie star. They ended up finding him hanging in the shower with vulgar words written all on him in lipstick and needles hanging out of his arms. And he was hanging there, and they claimed it as suicide.
Wow.
And she continued with the boards to try to sell them and stuff. And yeah, but
that's fascinating. I hadn't heard about, and of course that's interesting too, because all these different boards have a lot of different stories and a lot of different origins, because there's just so many of them out there. But I hadn't heard about this one.
Yeah, I'll send you a picture and picture of the story and stuff, and let you look into it. There is one for sale at the Witchboard Museum in Salem, and John, that's where I got mine from, was from John, the owner of the Witchboard Museum. But there, the one of them is still there, and I think it's like $1,500 or something like that. Last time I looked, but actually it should go for more than that, because those things are very rare. But yeah, there's one hanging in the museum. It's for sale. I'm thinking about getting it. I really am. So I have.
You've got quite the collection.
Yeah.
Of items.
Oh yeah, yeah. People think I'm crazy because I got a wicker casket in my living room.
Is it one of those reusable caskets? Yeah.
I don't know if there was ever a body in it or anything, but I'm sure it was a viewing. You know, it's for viewing and stuff to transport. Sure, somebody was put in there.
Very cool. I've seen those at two other places, and very fascinating. Does any of your items that you have anything, I don't want to say necessarily attached to them, but cause activity in your home from it?
Yeah, there's a couple of them there. There's definitely a couple of them. I actually have one of the dolls from the Haunted Doll Museum that was in Vicksburg. Actually, it was featured on the episodes I was on with Ghost Adventures. It's called Demons and Dolls. Spirits Under Siege episode, the Battle of Vicksburg. It's like 4-part, 4 episodes for that one, show, season, I believe. But yeah, her name is Lilith. And there's a reason why I call her Lilith. But anyway, yeah, I have her. She has produced some activity, because I've done a virtual investigation. Basically, had like 8 of my friends, put them on Facebook. We didn't do it live, but just video chat. put it right and put all the objects right there. K2, you know, a couple of items, and I walked away and left for a couple hours. They investigated, came back, and they were telling me, yeah, we heard this disembodied voice, Lilith moved, K2 was going off. So it was pretty interesting, you know, like a lot of them, you know, I'll put them in a room, put a camera on it for like 2 weeks, something like that. See if anything happens. But Lilith is probably one of them, and I've got a hairbrush that still has human hair in it in a mirror from a 150-year-old funeral home, and that had some stuff happen around it too as well. That's really probably the only objects that I have that actually I will say something happened out of the 30-40 objects I have. The rest of them I just got lazy and I just have them just for show. I haven't done any testing on them or anything, you know. Eventually I will, but you know, I live by I live by myself in there, so really I don't want to know.
Same here. That's what I always say. Anytime I do residentials or anything like that, I'm always like, look, you got to sleep there, so you got to decide if you want us to test, because there's some things that you see and hear that whenever you lay down at night, it is hard to unsee and hear. And I'll take activity anywhere I go, but I'm okay if I don't see a full body apparition in my house, you know, that sort of thing. I do have activity in my home. But,
all right. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. Yeah, so I mean, typically, you know, it's like I have activity in my home, but I'm okay if it's kind of mild and doesn't bother my animals or doesn't bother me, because it's different when you're home. So I know we get a lot of people here in the chat room that ask, you know, a lot of questions and are very fascinated when it comes to talking about attachments, and especially haunted dolls, haunted items. Why do you believe, what's your belief system on this as to why spirits attach to people or to a haunted item?
Well, I think, you know, like with people wise, it could be their energy. It could be the person's energy that they actually connect to. It's just like, you know, people say me and you, we feel like we've known each other forever and we could talk. That's just like with spirits. You know, spirit can like that person and feel their energy is good, and that's how they can connect to them. That's the good spirit though. But then you have the one that's non-human, that they just want to sit here and drain them, just bring them down. And they definitely go to the people that are already at sort of their lowest or almost there, and they're like, oh yeah, maybe I can go ahead and bring him all the way down or her all the way down, and I can just feed off of that, you know, negativity. That's what's going to keep me going, you know, like parasites basically. Now, whenever it comes, you know, sometimes spirit, like with my attachment with Paranormal 911, with the young lady that you know, unfortunately passed away in the car wreck. She was basically just trying to get help. Hey, I wanted to see my father. That's why I was out this way. Could you take me to my father, basically? You know, and that's how she would want me to acknowledge her. And eventually we figured it out and took her back to the area, and that was it. She left. And now with objects, I mean, they're vessels. I mean, they're empty. It's nothing there. I mean, maybe it's a way for which James Anito and Sam Balchustis, they explain this with haunted objects a lot better. I wish I could remember everything that they were saying, because I totally give them credit for it. But they were basically saying that it was just an empty vessel. Maybe it's attached to it, or maybe it's just connected to it. So, because it can't, an object, for something to attach to it, it doesn't have to invite it in and say, yeah, it's cool. Us humans, we have to invite it in, basically. We have to acknowledge it and give it permission to attach itself to us. Unlike an object, I mean, it's just there. It doesn't, they can just go to it and bam, they're there. I mean, also it could be the theory of leftover energy. You know, say for 30 years, you go home, you sit in your favorite recliner, you kick back, you cut the TV on, you do that same thing for 30 years, the same routine. Why couldn't your energy still be attached to that object? You know, why couldn't it? I mean, because you did a lot of stuff there, a lot of, you know, a lot of emotions were done there too. You're crying, you're laughing, this and that. Maybe you're arguing with somebody and you're sitting in that same object. So I don't know. It's just a theory.
No, I like that. I've always really subscribed to the leftover energy theory a lot. And I think a lot of the time we experience that in places here like, jails and different places where, and especially also in homes, like you said, if it's a certain item that person just continually does every day, why would it not deposit there and get residual activity from?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's also there's different kind of manifestations. There's certain levels of manifestations. I mean, you could have like say shadow people. My opinion, I think it's just a certain level. I think that's probably the easiest way that they are able to manifest. Maybe it's a little bit harder to come transparent with color and this and that. And I mean, could it be an accident sometimes if they attach to somebody whenever they're in this manifestation stage and they're trying to use some of your energy and they're just bam, there it is. Maybe it's an accident. I don't know.
No, that's a really good point. And then also the fact that, we do see them. If somebody, like you said, like the girl who was trying to find her father, maybe essentially they see us, this is somebody that can see me, or this is someone who's wanting to talk to me. So why would people not be a beacon or a lighthouse, if you will, that, same way with, say, for instance, the jail here, or for instance, any of the places you investigate. I think sometimes we do get activity from people who, all of a sudden you'll be doing this session. You've got your people that are in these locations, but then all of a sudden somebody new pops up. Well, why not someone that's passing through, or someone that maybe is in the location that has an attachment to them? It's like, hey, these people are trying to communicate. These people are trying to talk. Maybe I can get my story told here.
Yeah. Yep.
That, to me, that's something that's always makes sense. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's like my situation with the young female spirit. I had firefighter badge on. I had, turnouts, this and that. I was the first one at the scene. So it was like, ooh, safe zone type thing, safe person, and she probably could have related to that. It's just like at the jail, you go in there, maybe you go in there with a nurse or doctor uniform on, this and that. They'd be, oh yeah, there's help right there. Go to that person.
We get that a lot. It's different activity, especially anyone that is around that's a first responder, or someone that is a social work or a corrections officer. Anyone that's in that field of work, when they come in here, they get totally different activity in comparison to what somebody like myself that worked in corporate, or whatever would do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. So as far as you talk about your firefighter background and that sort of thing, do you ever pull and draw on any of that as far as like a trigger item when you go to some of these different locations?
I used to back in the day, but now I don't have to, because over the years I've acquired certain abilities and certain special abilities, and I'll use that. I don't have to use any trigger objects. I mean, because I'm the trigger object.
Makes sense.
So, basically whenever spirit wants to come to me and speak to me and show me visions or something like that, I'll just use that, So back in the day, yeah, I used to, but ain't no reason to now, because as soon as I go in, if they want to speak, bam, there it is, so, and it comes out of the blue. You can't control the situation. Seeing it, but that reminds me, it's whenever we were at the Colonial Inn, we were talking about a Massachusetts Paracon that Sam put on. We went, just so happened we got teamed up with Richard Estep, which he does a commentary on haunted hospitals and Paranormal 911. And we just happened to be with him. He was the team lead, and I just wanted to be a part of the fun. I didn't want to lead. I didn't want to work or anything. Well, we go into the one room, and Richard was like, I'm going to try an experiment. I want who in here has thinks they have certain abilities, and me and this other girl raised our hand, and he was like, "All right, y'all walk outside. I'm going to see if anybody in here feels what's going on. Maybe what kind of activity, if any spirits in here, and they're going to tell me, and I'll write it down and get y'all to come in one by one and see what y'all feel." So we walk outside, and as soon as I walked outside, I looked at the woman. I don't know who she is. First time meeting. I walk out there because I didn't want to, like contaminate anything. As soon as I walked out, I said, "I'm blocked. I don't pick up I haven't picked up anything," which I have. I've picked up a lot of stuff as soon as I went in that room. And as soon as Richard ends up calling me in there, I go in there and I walk right over to the fireplace, and I'm saying, "All right, there's a woman here, right? She's real upset. She's wearing a white sort of nightgown, silk with lace at the bottom. She's pacing back." Well, I didn't say the pacing back and forth. I started pacing back and forth, didn't even realize it, right in front of the fireplace. I didn't even realize it. And I'm just telling the story. And MK from Deja Vu Paranormal, she looked over. She was like, "David, is there a reason you're pacing back in front of the fireplace?" And I looked and I was like, "I usually do it whenever I'm speaking, but I'm going real fast." And I caught myself. I was like, "Oh, okay. All right." I was like, "Yeah, she's pacing back and forth. She's upset. She threw something in the fireplace. Her boyfriend / fiance, he's mad. He goes storming out of the room. She's on her knees in front of the fireplace, crying, holding her face, this and that." And I looked over at Richard and I was like, "That's it. Everything just stopped." Well, I step aside. He pulls up the phone, and everybody around, which Alora, she's founder of Deja Vu Paranormal, she says she doesn't have any abilities. He asked her while we were outside, "What is she saying?" He pulls up the phone. He typed everything out. We've got 15 people in there witnessing this. Said the exact same thing that I picked up. The white, the lace, the pacing back and forth, something thrown in the fire. She's upset. Guy goes out, So, and he wrote all this down. And everybody's like, "Oh, shit. We did not talk about this at all. We weren't able to. I mean, because we all went to the group. We went straight up there. And, before we went up there, we were all in the same area. It was an open area. It was just 10, 15 of us. Well, the woman came in. As soon as she came in, he was like, "Okay, so what are you picking up on?" She said the same thing, but she was explaining it through the man's eyes.
Oh, wow.
A different point of view. And he'd sit here and he was mad and he was looking at her and he was upset about something. He threw it in the fireplace. Yeah, he threw it in the fireplace. And he storms out and walks away, and she said, that's all I got." She wasn't able to listen to any of this. So then we started doing some, just sitting here trying to pick up what was thrown in the fireplace. I was getting a wedding ring. And then I was like, "No, it's a letter. It's a note. It's something like that." And next thing you know, MK was like, I'm getting a Bible. And next thing you know, as soon as she said that, the K2 meter just spiked all the way up to red. 3 of them did at the same time. And there was whatever the little rope, EMF light rope thing.
Oh, the tripwire.
Yeah, that ended up going off too at the same time. We're like, "Oh shit, okay, there's probably a Bible in." I bet there was a letter inside. And as soon as I said that, everything lit up. Then later on, we ended up having to leave. And then Patty went in there. And Patty, I got a hold of Richard. I was like, "Well, did anybody else pick up something?" He said Patty picked up almost on the same thing that we did. So that was, and we haven't talked to Patty ever since the seance. So that was pretty interesting that she picked up on it too. So interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, so have you always had these abilities, or is this something that you really just kind of worked with and picked up on in time?
I've always had it, but it wasn't as strong. I held back from it because I was like, "Man, people gonna think I'm crazy. I ain't gonna. I'm scientific. That's it. I just use the equipment." And I still hold back. I still like using the equipment more than anything. And I, definitely don't want to be called, labeled anything because I just don't care about that. But over the years, it's done got more and more and more. And found out that on my mom's side of the family, they've had that ability. And it just, ever since I moved up here, I went through sort of a traumatic event. And as soon as that happened, everything just spiked up. I mean, big time. I can walk into places and just pick up on spirit, automatically. Sometimes it depends on the location, but it's definitely weird. I always thought that people that, psychics, mediums, or whatever, they want to call themselves in the past, I've always thought that shit's fake. It's fake, but it's not. It's totally not now. And especially after going through that, well, the validation ever since being up here over the last year or so, the validation of me walking into places blind, not knowing anything about it. And I start picking up on this stuff, and the owner is like, "Oh, wow. Yeah, that's that, blah, 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 blah." And, I don't know. It's went from there. So I don't know.
Do you like to go into those places blind? I know when we have teams come in, we always ask them, do you want a history tour? Do you want to know the hot spots? We always ask kind of what they want. Do you go in completely blind, or do you try to know some history or anything?
No history at all. I want to go into it completely blind. I want to go in there and ask just generic questions. Excuse me. Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Do you smoke a cigarette? Just anything generic. I don't want to hit up on any kind of history that could, mess up or contaminate the investigation. And I definitely don't want to ask anything to hit a nerve or something like that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It depends on what location it is. It depends on how I feel. And, I have somebody else that's done history on it, and they go into it with me. They know it. They write it down on a piece of paper. Say if I start picking up on stuff, they can write it down. And then later on after the investigation, come back. Hey, this is what happened here. And this is what you were picking up on. Because, you want to know, try to find out what's going on in the location behind the history of actually what could have really happened. So, yep, always go into it blind, no matter what.
Nice. That's one of the things I love to talk about with different investigators, because there are so many different styles. And, some they come in and they hit right to the history point, and start going right into that story. But I love how you kind of start going into that almost just conversational, just, hey, here I am. Here's the moment. How are you in this moment? I really like that.
Yeah. I mean, you want to connect with spirit. You want to connect. You want them to be your friend. If I go into a location, start spitting off history, hey, blah, 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 and the spirit's like, who the hell are you? I don't know you. I'm not going to sit here and tell you anything, man. Yeah, I mean, especially because we're going in there just bugging the hell out of them and spitting all these questions out. It's like, it definitely could be overwhelming. I know it would be overwhelming to me. I mean, you come into my house, hey, what's that? What's that? What's that? What's that? What's that? It's just like,
tell me your deepest, darkest stories.
Right? So you want to get to know spirit and let them get comfortable around you if you want them to communicate with you. And
Absolutely.
It helps out big time too. I mean, if you're just sitting here with a group of people and y'all just telling stories back and forth, a lot of times spirit wants to get in that conversation and they'll start saying something. You just leave them alone and let them join.
Yes. One of our most active areas is the drunk tank, and that's also our current restroom. And so most investigators, how it is, you keep your recorder on the whole time. And we've caught some really cool EVPs from investigators that didn't know, but started their recorder, went into the bathroom, and they go back and review, and they've got a male CO barking orders and stuff in the bathroom when there's no men on the property, and definitely no man in the bathroom with them, And so when they're just going about their everyday business, using the bathroom or going in and taking a break, you'll get some crazy EVPs just because they either because they are residual or because they want to be involved in what's going on.
Yeah. Totally agree, 100%.
Now you know we were talking about tools and we were talking about the Ouija board. We were talking about trigger items and such. Do you have, other than yourself and a recorder, that's kind of your go-to tools when you go to these places, or do you just keep it kind of low key and use yourself?
Mainly, yeah, myself. I'll take an EMF detector. I'll take camera and voice recorder. That's my main ones. You know, I like, sometimes I'll use the Necrophonic. Sometimes I'll use Echo Box. But other than that, the white noise, just straight white noise is the best. It's old school. The white noise, you use that, have your voice recorder, and just try to catch, disembodied voices.
Yeah,
Get some EVPs that way. But yeah, I like the old school. Over the years, used to drag around a freaking DVR system and this and that, and I was like, man, I'm not doing all this crap. I mean, just this stuff right here works great. I mean, there's no reason to have all this stuff. Even I think I've got an SLS. I think I've used maybe 3 times, and it's like, why did I spend money on this? I mean, it's a cool device. You can put it up. You got to make sure it's stationary, though, because it will map out anything in the room. So, but I wouldn't use it as hardcore evidence. Voice recorder, camera, video camera, and myself, I would use as hardcore evidence. I got to have proof. You got to show that you're credible in the field, because if not, you're not going to get anywhere. I mean, you're not going to be credible. People aren't going to consider you credible. So it's got to be hardcore evidence. Definitely EVPs is my go-to, because if you have 2 male investigators in the room and you get a class A EVP of a female spirit coming to you, knowing there's not a female there, then yeah, you could show that as hardcore. I mean, straight evidence.
Absolutely. Now, are you typically a solo investigator, or do you investigate and collaborate with a lot of different teams?
I go with a lot of different teams. Myself, like I said, whenever I moved up here, I wasn't going to start another team again, because it would be like the 4th team. So that's whenever I got a hold of Chris Sanders, and I was like, dude, I'm not starting another team. Can I be a part of your team? And he was like, yeah. And then next thing you know, we did our own thing. We do our own thing, but we still friends. We all get together and we form a team to investigate, but we still do our other stuff. I mainly do stuff solo, like working with Deja Vu Paranormal now. We're doing a documentary at Wilson Castle in Vermont. That's going to be definitely interesting. Working with Connie Koenig with she's in Florida. She's a psychic medium. We're doing an event together, Stonehenge. You did the flyer for that too. But it also, I think we got the event coming up, Wilson Castle. It's a fundraiser too, as well, just like at Stonehenge. This is with Christina Westervelt, also with Deja Vu Paranormal, MK, and Alora. So it's all just a mix up, I mean, we learn from each other. We see different styles, and that's what we ought to be doing in the field, is doing like that. The word paranormal unity, I really dislike that word. I really do. Yeah. It's just being good people, and we're getting together and we're learning from each other and learning different techniques, learning different styles. And that's the fun thing about it. I mean,
yeah, that's what, I really like about you, David, is not only that you're just such a kind individual, but also that, you do this networking with, forget about Paraunity, but do this networking with these teams from different areas. Like I said, you turn on social media and one day you'll see you with Southern Paranormal down at the Atala County Jail, and then next, you're with Chris Sanders up in Maine, or wherever. And so you've got this great network. You do really good things as far as promoting these locations, and that's something that these locations need, getting the word out about them. And then also these different teams, getting together and going and pushing the paranormal field forward. So we really appreciate that. And I always enjoy following you and seeing what you've got going on.
Thank you so much. And I love seeing your stuff too. Oh my gosh. You talking about me being busy. Every time I see you're doing something. I mean, like you had an event, what was it? A bike event not too long ago. It was a few months ago.
Yes, and, it was, the end of last month.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, that's so cool that the way you're incorporating that community into the paranormal community. I love it, love it, love it. Because
thank you.
You're the only one that I've seen do that, and that is so awesome, man. I wish I wasn't so scared to ride a bike. I totally would do it, man. I'll be scared. I'd kill myself.
Yeah, it's cool. You know, I always like for myself to try to incorporate the subculture of the paranormal into other mainstream. And being a biker, it's really cool to be able to do that because bikers have stories from the road or talk about these really cool locations that they stop at. And of course, it's not about the destination, but the ride. And so we like to kind of combine those together. So, yeah, so I appreciate that. So let's go ahead and talk about briefly what you got coming up in 2023, because again, I know you got a lot of things going on, and then also the places where people can find you. We'll have a lot of these in the show notes. We'll have them thrown up on the screen here, but talk about where people how they can follow you, because I know you do a lot of live stuff and a lot of really cool things from these locations.
Well, you can look me up on TikTok, David Childers Ghost Hunter or David Childers Paranormal Addict. I'll do a lot of live feeds there, throw out some of the evidence on there as well. Also just Facebook, David Childers, Ghost Hunter, put that in, it should my bald head should pop up. Then we got, let's see, events we got next year. Maybe in January, I don't know, we're still looking at it. Me and Connie are supposed to be getting together and we're going to do some filming down in New Orleans. We're working on that right now, but it's so close to Mardi Gras. So it's going to be an iffy situation. Now, then we have, part of USS Salem Paranormal Expo. That's coming up. Is it March or May? But anyway, I'll be putting the flyer out. But USS Salem Paranormal Expo. Then we have Psychic in the Valley that's going on in New York that the Kaisers are putting on. Then Wilson Castle, that's in June. Wilson Castle will be doing a fundraiser there as well, which you've got the info for that.
Yep.
Not too long ago.
Coming out very soon.
That's a fundraiser for Wilson Castle, helping with the roof and all that stuff, restoring the place. Amazing location and beautiful. America Stonehenge, that's a fundraiser too for the upkeep of the property and take care of the llamas they have on site. Let's see. Chris Sanders has got Sleepy Hollow Paracon coming up. That's going to be, Chris, what was it? September, I believe. He's got a great, amazing event. Some amazing people coming out there. This will be the second go around. He kicked ass and everybody else did. Adam, Christina, Michelle, Jason, all of our friends. They kicked ass that event. Let's see what else. I'm trying to spit it out real quick. What else we got? Hell House Paracon. I'm a guest speaker at Hell House Paracon. That's in September of next year as well. I'm missing one. Miranda, I'm missing one. Oh yeah. The Battlefield Bash.
That's right. I'm going to be there this time as well.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
Yes.
Guest speaking down there as well, plus have a table with some haunted objects and stuff like that. But that's basically about it. We got some more stuff we've been talking about, but
just a few things.
Yeah, just a few things. But the tickets are available right now for Sleepy Hollow Paracon. The vendor tables are going real quick, and of course Hell House Paracon, they're going real quick as well. So, and I got a event in February with Monique Too Soon. Monique is awesome person. She does the paranormal drag queen type thing. So she's a great person. That's an event coming up soon. I think she's got one at the Real Conjuring House.
Wow.
New Year's Eve. So tickets I think are still available for that. So look up Monique on Facebook.
Nice. And like I said, we'll put links to all that there on the show notes. Have it going through the show here. David, thank you so much. I know you're busy. After just running down your schedule, I know you're busy. So I appreciate you taking the time to come on, record with us, share your story. I know we just touched the tip of the iceberg here.
Yeah, we could have kept on talking. So, but
absolutely.
Anyway, I appreciate the invite. I really do. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So folks, go on, check David out. You'll see about a lot of these cool events. Take him up on one of these events because you'll be glad you did. And I'm hoping here in 2023 to either be able to do an event with you or be able to at least meet you in person.
Absolutely. We got to do it.
Yes. Yes. All right, David. Well, thank you so much. And we will be talking to you very soon.
All right. Thank you all so much. I saw some great comments and questions there in the in the chat room here. Let me just remove this video here. Again, thank you, David Childers, for taking the time to record with me, pre-record the interview. We always love to be live and be able to have the comments and the questions over here, but the way it is sometimes with people's schedules, we're not always able to do that. So, so yeah, like I said, a few questions over there. I tried to answer those. Couple things happened when we were doing this interview, and I wanted to actually kind of pull that out before we end the show here, and also just again cover just a couple last minute things. But I'm going to pull up a video here while we were interviewing. So there was a little background interference about midway through the interview while we were there. I was recording from the historic Scott County Jail. I had to record with David on a Saturday morning. Sometimes it was during business hours. During the first part of the interview, there were no guests in the jail. Dr. Christie was working the front door there, and we did have some people come in during the interview. And so that's where you hear the background noise. Also heard the audio tour going. But there was one point during the interview, and it was when there was nobody in there, where caught some kind of strange voice on there. I'm not quite sure what it says, but I wanted to pull this up because it was just a little odd. I'm going to replay it here, and you guys let me know what you think.
Probably, I mean, my favorite one is haunted hospitals, because that tells about my story about my attachment, which I talk about, conventions and stuff whenever I'm speaking. Go over that, about attachments and, how bad they can get, and actually, wear a person down to a certain level. They start going into depression.
So, like I said, I'm not sure what that voice was. I'm gonna play it one more time. Let me know if you can kind of tell what it says. It's whenever David starts talking about the attachment. To me, it sounds like a female, and sounds like she's either saying something or sighing. Like I said, I'm gonna play it one more time.
I mean, my favorite one is haunted hospitals, because that tells about my story about my attachment, which I talk about, conventions and stuff whenever I'm speaking. Go over that, about attachments and, how bad they can get, and actually, wear a person down to a certain level. They start going into depression.
Yeah. So, Donald, yeah, that may have been a sigh. I'm not really sure. Whenever you go back and actually listen to the interview and hear some of the background noise, you can tell what is, because I'm sitting in this little inmate visitation room, and you can tell what's on the outside of the door and what is actually coming over in the audio. Whatever this is sounds like it's either in the room with me or in the room with David. So anyways, I just thought it was kind of interesting when I was going back listening to the pre-recorded interview, as well as going in and editing and such. So just thought it was kind of interesting, which is something happens when we're recording, happens whenever we're doing these investigations and such. Alora says the same thing. Sounds like a word and then a sigh. Yeah, so that's kind of what it sounded like to me. It sounds like there's something kind of mixed into it. It's interesting too that it happened whenever David was talking about his attachments. So I don't know. It's interesting to know what you hear. So again, like I said, just a couple little things. Make sure to go check out the historic Scott County Jail site. Take us up on one of our haunted history walks, ghost walks, flashlight tours that's going to be running through the month of December, running up until December 18th. Book a private paranormal investigation for yourself and your team. We've got the 2023 schedule up on that. And also, just want to pull this up right quick. Kind of want to do a quick little plug here, because Christmas is coming up. Check out the Ghost Biker Explorations store. We've got all kinds of really cool merchandise. We've got the classic Ghost Biker shirt. We've got the new one that is just unbelievably comfortable. It's the new charcoal gray one. And then we've got new dark heather charcoal gray hoodies, couple black ones left. I think we've only got smalls and extra larges in the black, but I've got every size in the gray. I'm actually going to be going and doing a post office run tonight. We got a bunch of orders in this week, so I'm going to be doing a run. You guys will be getting those. And if you get your order in now, you'll be able to you'll definitely get those before Christmas. We've got tank tops, we've got cool Ghost Biker hats, and then also just quickly got my artwork, got some new artwork coming as well. I like to draw the different haunted and historic locations that I visit. And so we sell the prints, and those are, that's how I fund the series. My channel is not monetized. And so I take all the funds from the shirt sales and the artwork sales and put those into my travel expenses and also into making the web series, because we are self-produced and self-funded. So thank you all who have put in an order, and thank you guys who may put in an order. I appreciate that. Again, got some great guests coming up. We've been booking. We actually have guests booked through the end of March, and super excited about that. I like to really be on top of things when it comes to the weekly shows. So again, we got some different events. Just announced that I'm going to be at St. Albans, speaking at St. Albans Sanatorium for the EnigmaCon's Paracon, which takes place in April, I believe. Let's see, I'm just pulling up the schedule right here. I know tickets for that do sell out very fast, and that's going to be the weekend of April 21st and 22nd. EnigmaCons, they put on an amazing convention. So yeah, definitely check that out. A lot of great speakers: Tennessee Wraith Chasers, Scott Sukkel, the Sisterhood, the Connor sisters, Pat O'Keefe. There are a lot of great people who are going to be at this Paracon here in April, and also going to be at the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash with David that he mentioned earlier. So we're working on getting those events, and also working on getting all of that announced and getting all of that worked up. So again, thank you guys so much. We will be back next Thursday night. We will be back live. Let me get my calendar adjusted again. We're going to have Miss Chatan Noir, and she's going to be talking about her magazine. She is up from the Michigan area. She's going to be talking about some cryptids, talking about her magazine. That's something we don't talk as much about here on the show, are cryptids and monsters and such. So she's going to be on also talking about the paranormal, but she's going to be talking about that. And then on the 15th, I'm going to have Miss Genevieve Kelly. She's going to be talking about her podcast as well as her ghost walks that she does up in the New England area. And then on December 22nd, I'm going to have Miss Esmeralda James. And then we're going to be ending December and ending the year out with Elvis. He is, I cannot pronounce his last name, so I'm not even going to try on this one, but I was recently on his podcast, which is going to come out very soon, and he's going to be joining us from Sweden. So extremely, extremely excited about that, and talking about some really awesome and unique topics. So be on the lookout for all of that coming up. That drops live. And as far as right now is concerned, all those interviews are going to be live. So that's going to all drop at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the Ghost Biker Explorations YouTube channel, Facebook page and LinkedIn. Go back, watch season 5. Watch any past interviews. Last week we had Miss Sonia Thompson from The Walking Dead, which was a lot of fun to actually, it wasn't last weekend because that was Thanksgiving. The week before that, the last show, we had Miss Sonia Thompson on, and so that was a fun interview. Go back and check that out. Just kind of talking about something a little different and unique. So, anyways, until next week, again, we'll be having some different announcements and stuff coming up through the week. So stay tuned for that. But until next week, when I'm here with Miss Shatan, I hope you guys have an amazing and wonderful week. Take care.